up, guys, and welcome into step 6 of our 10-step process of starting and launching your short-term Airbnb business. And step 6 is going to be furnishing your unit. So this should be probably the most exciting part of the process because you get to explore your creative side. But let me just say, if you're not super creative and you don't know how to furnish, get you some help. But when it comes to furnishing your unit, you have two options. You can either rent your furniture or you can buy your furniture outright. Either way is okay. I'm just going to give you a few pros and cons of each of these options. Okay, so the first option being renting your furniture. I personally have used a rental company called Court.com, and Court allows you to use discounts like a student discount or military discount. And so I was able to take advantage of a military discount. So if you have anybody in the military or that's a student, you can leverage their ID to get the discount for the program. But so I paid about $180 a month for my 2 units that are in Nashville. Now, as you guys know by now, I live in Los Angeles, so renting my furniture for my out-of-state units was a huge plus, and I would recommend, maybe doing the same if you guys are going out of state. But for my in-state units, I purchased all my furniture outright, so none of my units in-state have rented furniture. So 2 things I want you guys to consider when you're deciding whether or not to rent or buy outright. One is your capital, right? So if you're limited in the amount of money that you have to get started, then you're going to want to use the furniture rental as your first option for furnishing your unit because it's going to lower your upfront costs significantly. Okay. On the other hand, renting furniture, when you buy your furniture, I recommend sticking within a 2.5 to 3 times the rent budget. That way, with this formula, with this method, you're going to be able to see yourself profitable within 6 to 8 months max. Okay. Probably shorter depending on your area, how quickly you're getting Airbnb rentals, or if you're doing midterms. So that formula is going to work if you do both kind of interchangeably. You're going to be able to see yourself profitable no more than 6 to 8 months. Okay. So for example, if your rent is $2,000 a month, you don't want to spend more than $6,000 max on furnishing your unit. Okay. Other pros and cons is that when you rent the furniture, you're going to be renting for the, entire length of the lease, which is fine. But if you decide to renew your lease at the end of, your 1 year, you may want to consider going ahead and buying your furniture outright so you can lower your overhead costs on a monthly basis. So you can make that decision after the first year. If it's fine and your budget is fine and the $180 a month isn't bothering you, then go ahead and keep the rented furniture, because another pro to that is if you ever decide to move out of the unit, you don't have to try and resell the furniture or figure out what you're going to do with the furniture when it's all said and done. For me, I'm in this for the long haul, so buying my furniture wasn't really a question for me or a bother to keep the furniture, because I've been in my units for going on 2 years now. When it comes to buying your furniture outright, because again, when you rent, you're going to pay, let's say you spend $4,500 furnishing your unit if you were going to buy your furniture up front. Well, how long is it going to take you to spend $4,500 when you rent the furniture? I'm not a mathematician and I don't have a calculator in front of me, but if you do the math, let's say you're paying $185 a month, how many months is it going to be before you spend $4,500 in rental costs, where the cost of you buying the furniture outright starts to go into the negatives, if that makes sense. So after you spent like what a typical budget would be on renting the furniture, you actually start losing money at that point, because you would have, the amount of money that you would have spent buying it outright is pretty much, mitigated by the time you make it to that year and a half mark. There's also something to consider when deciding when you should maybe switch off from renting to going ahead and buying the furniture outright. By the time the year comes, you're going to be significantly profitable. You're going to be, you would have made your original investment on that unit back. So taking some of that profit to invest back into your business and buy your furniture outright, just to mitigate or, remove a monthly expense off of your monthly overhead, it may be beneficial for you, or it may not be as beneficial. It's completely up to you. That's why I said I just wanted to share that information with you, and you make your own decision. Okay. The second part of furnishing your unit that I want you to consider is where you're going to buy your furniture from, right? So as I told you guys, all of my furniture locally, I buy from my local furniture store. They know me well because I go there often to buy furniture for my units. Even some of my units where I've had allowed pets, I've replaced couches just so that there's no pet smell and things like that. So they see me often, right? So I usually get discounts. They work with me on price. So that's pretty good. If you have a local furniture store, or if you know of one, you can go there, build relationships with them, let them know you'll be buying furniture from them frequently, and kind of build your relationship from there. So that's a great option. I've also furnished entire units with Amazon, right? Amazon has great furniture pieces, and I'll link some of my listing links below so you guys can kind of take a look at my furnishing style, so you guys can just get some inspiration and ideas of what has been working for me within this industry. Keep in mind, I also do short-term and mid-term rentals. So my furnishing style has worked great, and I've gotten great reviews and information off of how I furnish my units. So when it comes to furnishing through Amazon, you have to take into account that you're going to have to build the furniture. So if you're on a time crunch, you might not want to go the Amazon route unless you have help, right? And I recommend, if you're going to be building furniture, get some help, because I have spent hours on end building furniture in units, because it takes a lot of time. So that's something to consider when you decide to go the Amazon route. Make sure that you have some help. And then, of course, there's the renting option, which is, in my opinion, the most time effective and the most cost effective, because when I furnished my units in Nashville, because I have 2 units that I had in Nashville, I actually recently sold them. So that was fun. But I had 2 units in Nashville that once I got off my flight, by the time I got to the unit to get ready to move in, all of the furniture was already there and set up. And all I had to do was buy the pots and pans and the pictures to put on the wall. And I was chilling within 6 hours. I was on the couch watching TV, and I spent the night because my flight left the next morning. So it was a really, really easy process. Okay, so in addition to your furnishing options, right, you got locally, you got online, you can use Wayfair, Amazon, wherever you want to use. You just need to consider delivery times, especially if it's out of state. Are the packages going to be sitting outside, or are you going to have somebody that can go grab them? Those are other things to consider. And then, of course, you have the rental option, which is going to be the most time and cost effective upfront anyway. Another thing to consider when it comes time to furnish and list your unit is when you sign the lease. What date should you sign the lease? You should always try to sign your lease at the first of the month. So, for example, if you were to sign your lease on the 15th of the month, then if things go wrong or packages get delayed, you're not able to get your unit furnished quickly, you may have a week delay for furnishing your property. And now you have to pay rent in another 2 weeks, and you don't even have the unit listed or occupied, right? So these are things you want to consider when it comes to the lease signing date. So if you can sign your lease on the 1st of the month, right, you're going to pay the rent for the 1st of the month, but you're going to get your unit furnished and listed within the first 24 to 48 hours. Because as I told you guys before, you can list your unit vacant, but you're going to get your unit listed and try to start get bookings within the first 24 to 48 hours, because if you're able to fill up your calendar before you even have to pay rent again, by the time the first of the month comes again, your rent is already paid and you've already started making profits back towards your original investment. If you were to sign your lease at the 15th of the month, then you're going to have to pay rent on the first in 2 weeks, and you're barely going to have time to be able to make your money back or make enough money to pay the rent so that you don't have to cover it out of pocket. So that's highly considerable, highly recommending that you guys sign the lease on the first, get the unit furnished and listed within the first 24 to 48 hours so you can start building out bookings for the entire month, so that you can recoup some profits for that first month's rent and you can have the money to pay the rent for your second month. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, I will also tag my Instagram below. But of course, the best way is going to be to comment under this video, interact with my YouTube channel so I can continue to grow and put out more content for you guys to start, launch, and scale your business while you are working. All right, y'all, I will see you in step 7.